What's up, YouTube? It's Kenny again. Today I want to talk about the Tesla Semi. So this is not really a stock video per se, but I still want to give a little disclaimer that I am not a financial advisor, all right? I'm not your mama. I'm just a truck driver, drives trucks across the country, trading stocks, all right? And I've been driving trucks for 20 years, all right? So I know a whole lot about driving trucks. I know about the trucks. I know about how truck stops work. I know about how the shippers and receivers work. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. I apologize for the bumpiness. I'm going down the road here, headed to Illinois from Texas. But before I start, okay, I want to say that this video is not meant to say bad things about Tesla. All right, I love Tesla. I'm invested in Tesla. I think Tesla is the future. And so while I know a lot of you will probably find this who are Tesla fans, so while it may sound like I'm saying a lot of negative things here, I'm just trying to provide you with the perspective of somebody who does this every day, because I watch a lot of videos every day really about all kinds of stocks and investments and stuff like that, and I've watched a lot of stuff on the Tesla Semi, and a lot of these numbers that they're throwing out and stuff are just cracking me up, guys. Like, these guys that are making all these videos about this and that are saying all this stuff about the Tesla Semi have no idea what they're talking about. Like, you know, they're just doing mathematical gymnastics and, you know, they just don't know anything about truck driving, and it shows in their videos, and they say how all this stuff's going to work, and I'm like, no way that's not going to work like that. Like anybody who does this for a living, like, can just look at a glance and see these things that I'm about to talk about. And I know that you guys don't have an understanding of what I do, and that's why I feel it's important for me to make this video. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that you guys don't know about trucking. You know, I mean, I don't expect you to. So let's talk about it, all right? So there's a lot of things that are going to pose a big problem for this Tesla Semi, okay? But really there are two main issues, okay? And we'll talk about these two main issues after I get a couple other things out of the way. The first issue is the range. And the second issue is the charging, okay? So I want to talk a little bit first about these numbers that a lot of these YouTubers and people are throwing out there that just make no sense, all right? One of them is that they saying that 80% of loads are less than 500 miles. That's a joke, guys, okay? Like, if my dispatcher gives me a load that's less than 500 miles, we fix to have a conversation, all right? We fix to have a conversation about what the fuck's the problem, you know, why you ain't giving me some miles, what's up with this little 300-mile load. Like we fix to have a conversation about that. I mean, like, I'm on a short run right now. It's 900 miles. My last one was a pretty short one. It was 900 miles. Okay. That's a short one. Okay. The one before that was Georgia to California, 2,150 miles. The one before that was a little short one that got me from New Jersey to Georgia, just so I could get that load. And then the one before that was Kansas to New Jersey, was like 1,700 miles. I mean, the idea that the average long-haul trucker is doing 400 and 500 mile loads is not at all accurate, okay? Not at all. Another number that I see being thrown around is the average trucker puts 50,000 miles a year on their truck, which is a lot of miles. 50,000 miles. almost 130,000 miles on this truck that I'm in right now over the last 12 months. I get bonuses based on that, so I know exactly how many miles I'm doing, and I'm doing approximately 30,000 miles every 3 months. I'm doing approximately 10,000 miles a month, okay? So that number's ridiculous. Like, they're just throwing out these ridiculous numbers, okay? Now, one of the main arguments around the Tesla Semi that people try to use against it is that the batteries are going to weigh too much, all right? So you see all these YouTubers and people doing these mathematical gymnastics to try to figure out, like, a way that the batteries will work, okay? And I just want to say up front that I don't really think the weight is that much of an issue, because, you know, while some of the YouTubers' numbers are accurate, they leave a whole lot of stuff out, okay? They say, like, well, the engine that you're not going to need anymore is like 3,000 pounds, and the fuel is 1,000 pounds, so that's 4,000 pounds. And they try to do all these numbers, okay? So I figure if Tesla can keep the battery at 10,000 pounds or less, we ought to be all right, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. They're right. The engine weighs about 3,000 pounds, okay? The fuel, at least, my tanks are smaller than some guys, but mine is about 1,000 pounds full of fuel, okay? But here's what they don't ever talk about. Transmission weighs 800 pounds. You ain't never going to need that. The exhaust system probably weighs 1,000 pounds. You ain't going to need that anymore. The fuel system itself, not including the fuel lines, the fuel filters, the fuel pump, the fuel tanks, you're not going to need that anymore. You know, I don't know how much that weighs. Then you got your complex, crazy ass emission system, DEF, you know, hold 20 gallons of DEF. You got the DEF canisters, you got all the DEF computerized stuff, you got all the emission system on the engine. You're not going to need that no more. So you're going to lose a lot of weight, a lot more than a lot of these videos are talking about. You're going to lose enough weight to offset quite a bit of battery weight, okay? So I wouldn't listen to those numbers a whole lot or worry about them. You know, there's a lot of other numbers too that don't make sense, but those are the main ones. Okay, so now let's talk about the main issues, okay? Number one is the range, all right? So on the upper end of the range, they're talking about 500 mile max range, okay? And there's been speculation that could go as high as about 600, okay, max range. Now, first of all, you know, just to talk about the range numbers for a minute. That's max range. That means if I'm on a flat road, I should be able to get 500 miles, okay? I'm almost never on a flat road, guys. Like right now, I'm up and down hills. When I'm running the East Coast, which I do quite a bit, I'm in mountains and big hills. You know, so you're talking about cutting that range by quite a bit most of the time as an over-the-road trucker, okay? Every once in a while you get one that's flat ground most of the way, but for the vast majority of loads, you're in a lot of hills and mountains and stuff like that. And so that cuts that range down. So already the range is less than what they're projecting, okay? Because those are in ideal situations, okay, which we're never in. Okay, now I'm just going to be straight up, okay? If a company releases a truck that does 500 mile max range, no long haul company is going to buy that truck. None of them. They will not buy a truck that has a 500 mile range. It's not going to happen. And I'm going to tell you why. I get paid by the mile. Okay, loads are based on the miles. I have a slow truck. Now, that's something else that you guys probably don't understand, is that different companies govern their trucks at different speeds. So the maximum speed of our trucks is 65 miles an hour. If I am able to drive a full day, I can do 640 miles, okay, approximately. That's my best ranges are about 640 miles. That's it. Everything falls into place right. I can get 640 miles. And I got to get them 600 miles. No ifs, ands, or buts, guys. On full days of driving, I got to get them 600 miles. Like I just said that I did one from Georgia to California, 2,150 miles, okay? So yes, on the first day when I got the load, I was not able to do my full miles. And on the last day when I dropped the load, I was not able to do my full miles. But every day in between there, I got to be able to get them 600 miles, period. Okay? And a company expects me to get them 600 miles. It's not just because I'm greedy and I want my miles or whatever. The company expects me to do that, and the time frames of the loads when it has to be delivered, they're based on that. Okay, so like, and you can't be late. You're late to deliver to Walmart DC, that's a $500 charge. You know, they charge you. You can't be late. So you have to be able to get them 600 miles. Okay, and you might say, well, you drive and then you charge it and then you drive some more. Okay, and a lot of people may know or may understand that we're allowed to drive 11 hours a day. It's not really a day, but 11 hours before we have to take a 10-hour break, okay? But what you don't know is that we actually have 3 different clocks that we're governed by. We're not just governed by the 11 hours. We also have a 14-hour clock, and we also have a 70-hour clock, okay? We're not going to talk about the 70-hour clock, even though this does impact that. But I want you to hear about the 14-hour clock, okay? So we're allowed to drive 11 hours a day. But we also have a 14-hour clock, and what that 14-hour clock is, from the time I wake up and change my duty status on my logs, I have 14 hours to be done for the day. 14 hours, all right? So within that 14 hours, I have to drive my 10 to 11 hours and do everything else that I have to do within that 14-hour period, okay? From when you get your CDL and you start driving a truck, you have to log everything. You're not only just regulated on the hours you can drive. Everything you do has a log duty status, okay? So like when I'm fueling, I have to change my duty status to fueling. When I'm getting loaded or unloaded, I have to change my duty status to load or unload. I have to take a 30-minute break. There are all of these things that you have to fit into that 14-hour period. That's not even like counting stopping to get something to eat, and then maybe stop to go to the bathroom a couple times or grab a drink or something. Like we are constantly bumping up against that 14-hour clock. Okay, so just say they're able to increase the range and get it up to somewhere around that 800, 900 mile range, because 75 mile an hour trucks can do 700 miles a day. So just say they're able to increase that, and right now they say that you'll be able to, in 30 minutes, charge it to 400 miles range. So let's just say it takes you an hour to fully charge it. We don't have an hour, guys. We really don't. We don't have an hour to sit there and charge it. Okay? So the range is really important, but the charging is the other point that's really important, okay? We don't have an hour to charge this truck. And even, like, say we did have an hour to charge the truck. If you just set up some kind of a situation like a fuel island, okay, where you got, like, say, 10 chargers, how long you going to have to sit in line behind another truck before you get up to the charger to even start charging? Because right now, I may sit 30 minutes just to get to the fuel island to fuel for 10 minutes. So the setting up chargers like physically in the fuel islands will not work. It'll have to be its own thing. And setting up a charging station somewhere else at the truck stop that is similar to a fuel island is not going to work. The only way it's going to work is to put those chargers in the physical parking spaces at the truck stops. And that's another thing I want to say. You got to be able to charge these trucks everywhere across the United States, all right? You got to. Like every truck stop, or at least like 50% of the truck stops, you got to be able to charge that truck at that truck stop. That's all there is to it. Like, and that's not there. That's not available. That's something that's going to take years to figure out and to build out. You know, there's a lot of logistics to that, you know, I'll touch on briefly, that make it to where this is just not, the Tesla Semi is just not viable for long haul trucking yet, you know. Now I'm telling you, let me say this, it will be perfectly viable for the companies that have the pre-orders in, like Coca-Cola, Walmart, but these are short haul, dedicated, local. These are not over the road trucking, and most of us out here are over the road truckers. Like, if you go look at a company to try to get a job, they'll have a big thing on there that'll say dedicated and regional available, and then when you call, they're like, oh no, we ain't got none of that, we need over the road drivers. And that's what most of us are out here doing. When it comes to short haul, dedicated, local type stuff, Tesla's going to be fantastic. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to work well. You know, places like Walmart will be able to install chargers at their distribution centers and stuff like that. And these guys will be able to do these little 200 and 300 mile runs and charge their truck when they get there while they're loading. They'll be able to do that. But that won't work for guys like me. Like, these chargers, like these shippers and receivers we go to, sure, we go to some Walmarts, distribution centers and stuff like that, but they're not going to let us use their chargers. They won't let us sit in there for a 30-minute break. Like, it's in, get unloaded, which may take 2 hours, and get back out. They're not going to put chargers in there for us. They may put chargers in there for their trucks, but we're not going to be able to use them. Okay? And these other like Walmart, just regular DCs across the United States, they don't give a shit about us. They treat us like criminals. There's no way they're putting charging stations in there. At least not. If it does happen, it won't happen quickly, I promise you. I mean, these places, you'd be lucky you're not sitting there for 6 hours just waiting to get a door to get unloaded. I mean, they're not trying to hurry about nothing. And so really the only way that it works for the long haul trucking space, for real over the road truck drivers, okay, the only way it really works is if it's at the truck stops. And the only way it ends up at the truck stops is if it's in the parking spaces, okay? Now, this is a nightmare. I mean, some of these truck stops have 250, 300 parking places, okay? So, number one, you're not going to put 250 chargers in there, especially at the beginning. So what you would have to do is you would have to convince the truck stops to single out, say, 20 parking spaces and put chargers there, okay? Now, like I said, we don't have an hour to charge, so we would have to be pulling into these parking spaces at night or whenever you sleep, if you're a night driver or whatever. We have to pull into this parking place, plug the truck in, and go to sleep, okay? Now, here's the problem with that. Truck drivers are idiots. Truck drivers are idiots. They tear everything up. They don't give a shit about the rules, okay? So if you take these 20 out of 200 parking spots and you put electric chargers in here, okay, what's going to happen is all these truck drivers who just have regular diesel trucks are going to park in them, okay? And I don't care, you might think they can get around that, but right now, as it stands, we have what's called reserve parking at some brands of truck stops, okay? And so I can get on my app and reserve a truck's parking space at a TA because I know I'm going to be coming in there like 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And when I come in there, that reserve parking may be full because them guys just park in it anyway. And then some truck stops, you can go and tell them, hey man, you got to give me a parking space, and they'll go out there and beat on their door or whatever they got to do, call the cops, get them out of the space. But more often than not, they ain't trying to do all that. You know what I mean? They'll be just like, park over here somewhere, or, you know, and these guys will park everywhere. Like if you go into a truck stop at midnight, okay, you're going to have guys parked everywhere. All the spaces will be full, and there will be trucks parked everywhere, blocking other trucks in, parked just everywhere, okay? Truck drivers don't give a shit about your rules. You can say, oh, these parking spots are only for electric trucks. They'll pretend like they didn't even see that sign. They don't care. And, I understand that, I'm kind of going a little bit really in depth, but I'm just trying to make you understand that there are all of these logistical nightmares to trying to have these charging stations. And, the range has to be there, and nationwide charging has to be there before the Tesla Semi is going to be viable for most of us truck drivers. The minority of the truck drivers who are doing really short haul stuff from their own, that they're able to go to their own places to charge them, and local drivers who can go back to the Coca-Cola plant, plug their truck in for the night, that's going to work. And those are the types of companies that they have pre-orders from, okay? But for companies, big old companies like Swift and Schneider and National and all these other companies, Prime and all these over-the-road companies that have thousands and thousands of trucks, I promise you, they are not going to buy that 500-mile range Tesla truck that you have to plug into a charger. They're just not going to buy it, I promise you, all right? Now, at some point in the future, when the battery technology gets better and the charging stations start to be built out and stuff like that, it'll be viable, okay? At some point in the future, it will be a viable solution, okay? But we ain't there yet, and we ain't going to be there in 5 years, guys. It's just not going to happen. This is from somebody who does this every day, all right? With that said, when Hyliion's system actually hits the ground, it's going to hit the ground running, guys, okay? Like, there is already infrastructure in place to fuel natural gas. Nobody's using it most of the time. It's just sitting at these truck stops, sitting right there, ready for somebody to come put some natural gas in their truck. It's not at all truck stops, but at Flying J's, a lot of Flying J's across the country have this already. So when this system that Hyliion is going to put out comes out, the infrastructure is already there. And that's an advantage that Tesla just does not have. And it's not going to have for quite some, it's not going to have when it drops. And, I know this is not a video about Hyliion, but another thing about Hyliion is that the way they're doing it, the way that they're not building a truck, they're building a system to be put in a truck. I think that a lot of people misunderstand that, and they think that it's like a retrofit type of situation, which their first product, the other one that hybridizes it or whatever, that is what that is. But the ERX system is not. And something that I think a lot of people don't understand is that is already how it works now. Like, if I was to go to Kenworth to buy a Kenworth, I could get a Cummins engine in there with an Eaton Fuller 13-speed. I could get a Cummins with an automatic. I could get a PACCAR engine with a 10-speed Eaton Fuller. I could get it configured in a lot of different ways, okay? So it's not that much of a stretch or a jump to say, okay, well, I want mine with the ERX system, okay? And that's already how it works. It's not a retrofit type of thing. It's already how it works when you buy a truck. And then there's also these companies that make what are called glider trucks. So they buy the truck without an engine and transmission, and then, or maybe just without an engine, or just whatever. They buy the trucks. That's called a glider. And then what they do is they put an older engine in it so that they don't have to have the emission system. So that basically you get a brand new truck, you just don't have all the bullshit emissions that are constantly breaking down and costing thousands and thousands of dollars to fix, right? But the government has heavily regulated glider trucks, and whereas when they used to be out, say 4 or 5 years ago, there was no regulations, and whole fleets were buying them to get away from the emission systems and stuff. And so they regulated it. But with this ERX system that Hyliion's putting out, those glider companies will be able to put those systems in there, and that's another way that these guys who hate the emission systems can skirt around the emission systems. So, it's just that system already functions with everything and the way things work right now already. So it just makes a lot of sense. It's super practical. And anyway, enough about Hyliion. the Tesla truck just doesn't have all those advantages, and it really has a lot of disadvantages. And I could go on and on, especially about stuff like the seating in the center, like you're sitting in the center of the truck, which basically creates two blind sides instead of just the one blind side. Like when you back a truck, you roll the window down and look out so you can see the trailer. You can't do that in the Tesla truck. It's like you're backing on your blind side. And any truck driver will tell you never back on your blind side. You have to be able to open your door and look out, or roll your window down and look out, and you can't do that if you're sitting in the middle of the truck. There's other problems, okay? But the main two problems are the range and the ability to charge the truck. And it's just no solution for it right now. It's going to be years before the build out occurs for the charging. And the range, they're just underestimating how much we need. It's basically what it amounts to. And they're too scared of the weight. So I don't know, guys. Again, I love Tesla. I think Tesla's the future. And I think that in 5 years or so, everything that I've just said could change. But in the foreseeable future, like in the next 4 or 5 years, it's just not going to work for over-the-road truckers. And the only real solution that will work is the system that Hyliion's coming out with. So you might just keep that in mind if you're investing in stuff. It's down real low and people don't believe in it right now, but it's going to be the one that's going to dominate this long-haul over-the-road space, which is what most of us do out here on the road. So hit that subscribe button, guys. Like the video. Thanks for watching.